I'm going to go ahead and get started with Ryan Walters because I feel like I can't stop talking about this guy, but he also can't stop pushing Christianity on everybody else. So last time we talked about this dude, it's because he wanted to spend $3 million in taxpayer money to purchase like 55,000 Trump Bibles for classrooms all across Oklahoma. Ryan Walters, of course, is Oklahoma's Superintendent of Public Instruction. He's like the big education leader across the state. And I wanted to tell you about what he's now trying to do. And there's a few different things he's done in the wake of the election, okay? So the first thing is, let me tell you really quickly about his plan to use taxpayer dollars to purchase the Bibles, because there's a big update on that story, okay? And I know I've gone through this before, but I feel like new people are learning about this guy all the time. And it is possible, hasn't been announced yet, that Donald Trump chooses this guy to be the Secretary of Education. And if that's the case, you're definitely going to want to know what this guy is up to, okay? So the first thing to tell you is that over the summer, he issued a memo demanding that every teacher in the state of Oklahoma in public schools incorporate the Bible into their curriculum. Why? Because he wanted to teach kids about the history of the country. And he said adherence to the mandate is compulsory, immediate and strict compliance is expected. And then he issued like a very specific memo later on. He said school districts had to provide physical copies of the Bible and the 10 Commandments to every teacher. And he actually said in that memo, here's how teachers need to incorporate the Bible into their classes. Like if you're in history class, this is where you need to use it. If you're in English class, this is how you must teach metaphors and things like that. Don't use another book, use the Bible to do it. Things like that. It is ridiculous. He also said that if teachers don't comply, they could be fired. He said, and I quote, if teachers don't want to teach it, they are compelled to teach it, or they can find another job. And then later on in the summer, he announced that he would set aside $3 million from his own office's budget to buy Bibles for the classroom so all these teachers could use them. And then he also asked the state legislature for another $3 million for the same thing for reasons no one knows about, but they have not said yes to that. But basically, he wants to take money from like staff salaries and use it to purchase 55,000 Bibles, even though there are not 55,000 teachers teaching the things he said you need the Bible for. And even though the Bible is free if you know how the interwebs work, no, he's like, no, we need to buy a physical copy. And then he put out a memo specifically saying this. He said, in this, I should back up for a second. He said, hey, I have a pool of $3 million and I'm opening the door to who wants to supply Oklahoma teachers with 55,000 Bibles. And this is what he said there. We need 55,000 Bibles. And you have 2 weeks to get it to us. You have to provide the KJV version of the Bible, the KJV Bible, for historical accuracy. All right, whatever. He said the Bible has to include the pledge, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, just like Jesus wanted, which is a weird thing to have in the Bible already. And he said, I'll remove myself here. No study guides, no narration, commentary, none of those, teen Bibles or anything weird like that. And then the weird, really weird one, you have to have the book leather bound or inside leather-like material for durability. And the thing is, when we discussed this before, everyone read that and said, there are no Bibles that are like that for cheap. I mean, there were news reporters that asked around and to book publishers, and they said, do you guys publish anything like this? And one Christian bookseller says, we sell 2,900 kinds of Bibles. None of them fit these parameters. So Ryan Walters was going after a very specific Bible. And of course, there is one Bible that meets all those requirements, and it's the one Donald Trump was selling. That one has all those American documents, and it has the lyrics to God Bless the USA by Lee Greenwood. So it was clear Ryan Walters wanted to spend $3 million to buy Trump Bibles, which cost $60 plus shipping. Why? I don't know. Which Trump gets a cut of. I mean, that's why. And this was all before the election. It was just obvious what he was doing, and it was extremely shady. And there's no way anyone else could even bid on this, because the only way you would have those books ready to, in order to deliver all those books within 2 weeks, you would have to have those Bibles already printed out and sitting in a warehouse, so that all you have to do is box them up and put a shipping label on them. So everyone knew what Ryan Walters was up to. He was trying to curry favor with Donald Trump, make an in-kind contribution to either the Trump campaign or just Donald Trump's pockets. And that's why he was doing all this. It's not about the kids. It's never about the kids in Oklahoma. Are you kidding me? So after he got a lot of backlash for that, he said, you guys, that's totally not what I'm doing. And he issued a revised proposal so that people could bid on supplying the books. And this is his revised version of what he sent. And take a look at this at the very top here. He says, okay, you still have to provide the pledge, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, but they don't have to be part of the book. You can do it separately. Okay, so anyone who already has Bibles in hand, they're good to go. They just got to, print out the rest of this stuff, staple it together, and put it in the box. But then look at what he says at the bottom. 2.7. The supplier's Bible must still be leather or leather-like material for durability. And by the way, those additional documents also have to be bound in durable material. So basically, you need to provide like 4 pages of material in tiny font, like the Constitution, the Pledge of Allegiance, Bill of Rights, all that stuff. You still have to put that in as a brand new book. You can't just print it out and staple it. So basically, he changed the criteria, but really the Trump Bible was still the only one that met the criteria. So he didn't change anything. It was ridiculous. So why do you even make that change? Because it looks like you're opening the door to non-Trump Bibles, but then you're immediately shutting the door on that possibility. The funny thing is, a spokesperson for his office told reporters these changes were made to provide much better value to Oklahomans. No, I could provide much better value to Oklahomans, because I would just say, if you need to refer to the Bible, you go on the internet and you go click, 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 and you find the Bible. It's free. You already have the internet. There's your value. Just pay me whatever you would have paid Donald Trump, right? So all of that happened a while ago. And then there was a lawsuit. This is the front page of the lawsuit. A whole bunch of plaintiffs up here, parents, ministers, kids who are in school in Oklahoma, sued Ryan Walters and pretty much everyone connected with this whole charade. And they said, look, you can't have a Bible mandate forcing teachers to use this. You can't spend this money, taxpayer dollars, on these Bibles. And they also said, hey, judge, we need you to issue a ruling on this quickly before he shuts down his proposal. Like he says, deadline's over. I'm giving the award to you, Trump, and you can start mailing out your Bibles that are sitting in a warehouse because no one else wants them. The lawsuit said that his Bible mandate interferes with the parents' ability to direct the religious and moral upbringing of their children. They said the Bible mandate was coercive, right? And you can't do that. You're forcing kids to adopt Christianity by shoving this in their faces. And a lot of these parents suing did not want that. More specifically, the lawsuit said Ryan Walters violated the Oklahoma Administrative Procedures Act. Basically, if you want to issue a new rule, a new mandate, there's a period where you say, this is the new rule I want to issue, and people, the public, can comment on it before it goes into effect. Walters didn't do any of that because he thinks he's a dictator. And the lawsuit said Oklahoma's constitution prohibits state funding for the promotion of religion, and that's all this was. So that lawsuit was filed. So, with that in mind, what is the update that has now happened? Well, in the past couple of weeks, since Trump got elected, Ryan Walters has been on a tear trying to get on Trump's good side before Trump announces who's going to be Secretary of Education. Okay, so for example, one of the things he did, this is November 7th, he said, regarding the elimination of the U.S. Department of Education, because Ryan Walters, like all these conservative freaks who hate public education, wants to just eliminate the Department of Education. And he said, the federal government has hijacked our education system, using taxpayer dollars to impose harmful policies and control what is taught in our schools. Unlike Ryan Walters, who literally wants to do exactly that. He says, this memo addresses 5 areas where eliminating the Department of Education and moving to block grants would restore authority to states, allowing communities and not Washington bureaucrats to decide what's best for their children. So that's one of the things he did, basically saying, hey, Donald, you know how you're looking for a Secretary of Education who will dismantle the government? I'm your guy because I agree we need to get rid of the Department of Education. Put me in charge and I will destroy it, because he would anyway. He can't do his job well. So that's one thing he did since Trump got elected. Another thing he did, check this out. This is November 11th. He formed a Trump Education Advisory Committee. And basically, what this is saying, well, eventually, when you choose an education secretary, they're going to have new demands for all these public schools. So in Oklahoma, we're forming a little committee to streamline any of your changes because, Donald, I love you, and we're ready to go as soon as you tell us how high to jump. So that's the next thing Ryan Walters did. He formed a Trump suck-up committee to make sure in Oklahoma they will destroy public schools as exactly the way Donald Trump's administration wants them to. Third thing he did. This is November 12th. He's got nothing better to do. He announces Office of Religious Liberty and Patriotism. Look at this press release. He announced the establishment of the Office of Religious Liberty and Patriotism at the State Department of Education, which will serve to promote religious liberty and patriotism in Oklahoma and protect parents, teachers, and students' ability to practice their religion freely in all aspects. We're just forming a little club in this office to promote religious liberty and patriotism because you know what's hard for Christians in Oklahoma? Being Christian. It's so hard. We got to make sure it's super easy. So we're just going to form this group. And also the subtext is, hey, Donald Trump, did you see all the stuff I did? You like this, right? Pick me, pick me. So all of that stuff is what he's been up to this week. What does this have to do with the Bible thing? Well, here's where it gets interesting. Because regarding buying the Bibles, Walters decided to just cancel that whole proposal. People had 3 weeks to turn in their bids to purchase all those Bibles. And basically a book company could say, I think I could supply you all 55,000 Bibles, but I can do it for $2.5 million. And I'm the lowest bid. So give me your money. And Ryan Walters could have said yes. Well, this week, he informed everybody that bid on it that their bids are no good, that they were just canceling the whole thing altogether, which is weird because you would think, given everything I just told you, he absolutely wants to hand money over to Trump and buy these Trump Bibles for these public schools. So a website called Oklahoma Watch reported on this first, and check out what they said. Bidders were notified Thursday. This is last Thursday. The state solicitation had been canceled. Dan Issett, a spokesman for the education department, did not explain why. Issett said he was too busy for a call with Oklahoma Watch. Doing what? You think Ryan Walters' staff is busy with stuff? No. And then in an email, he said the agency will issue a new request for proposals to ensure taxpayer money is utilized efficiently and the best possible resources are made available to our students. So they canceled the bidding, but they're totally going to do it again in a couple weeks, is what he's saying, which is weird because that doesn't explain what went wrong with the bidding process they just had. Now, Oklahoma Watch said they put in like public record requests to figure out what's happening with the Bible purchases, and Walters's office, quote, failed to turn up any records. So it's just a whole office full of absolute shadiness, right? But I think I know why he canceled the bidding process. And the Oklahoma Watch hints at it, but they don't take the final step and say, you guys, this is why he canceled it. But I'm pretty sure I know why he canceled it, because I think in Ryan Walters' head, the only people who are going to bid on this were the people who have all the Trump Bibles, because that's the only book that meets all the criteria. It's why Ryan Walters tailored the criteria so that only one company could meet the demand, right? We all just saw that. What happened, and according to Oklahoma Watch, it seems like this is what happened. Someone else bid on the proposal. They offered to sell Oklahoma, to make, create, ship all the books Oklahoma wanted. And that guy's name is not Donald Trump. And I think that's where it went wrong. Check this out. Again, this is from Oklahoma Watch, which first reported on this. One bidder, Mark Herkimer, said the state owes bidders an explanation for the abrupt cancellation. Herkimer is the managing director of the Herkimer Foundation in Willis, Texas, which spent time and money, including purchasing a $500 insurance policy to meet the bidding requirements. I would be disappointed if this was a stunt, Herkimer said. Dude, it was a stunt. What's wrong with you? He said he supports the idea of using Bibles in school as a literary reference. So this guy is, as far as I know, a MAGA dude. And he decided to bid because he actually wants to provide Bibles to these schools. His bid, which he asked to keep confidential to protect the competitive process, significantly undercut the $3 million allocation. So this guy offered to provide all the books, all 55,000 Bibles to Oklahoma schools for way less than $3 million. And I'm pretty sure Ryan Walters saw that bid and said, oh shit, if you're the best bidder for the lowest cost, I can't just give Donald Trump the money. I can't just buy the Trump Bibles because you're cheaper. And then I would have to try to explain that to people after he's already said, you guys, it's totally not about buying the Trump Bible. So that's what appears to have happened. Now, look, the one thing at the bottom here, Herkimer said the 2-week turnaround time, the delivery time, he couldn't do that. He couldn't create these books and ship them out to schools in 2 weeks. It was unnecessarily restrictive and served to limit competition. And in his bid, he asked that it be extended to 12 weeks. So this guy says, I can save you a ton of money, but you got to give me like 3 months to give you all these books, but I'll save you a ton of money in the process. And if you're doing a competitive bid, that's fine. That's how competitive bids work. You say, I'll do everything you want for the cheapest amount you want, and here's the compromise I need from you. And then people get those bids and they say, is this compromise worth it? And in this case, there's no like huge rush to get these Bibles to kids. I promise they're fine on their own. So that's the sort of bid you would say yes to if this mattered to you. But anyway, that request doesn't seem unreasonable by Ryan Walters' own standards. Like, we'll give you what you want for cheaper. We need a little more time to make it happen. So Walters could have accepted that bid, but instead they said no to that guy. And on the state education department's website, this is what it now says for that bid solicitation. You could see there is the like documentation for anyone who wants to submit a bid, and look to the left. What's the status? Canceled. Brian Walters clicked a switch and said, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. We're gonna do it again. We'll do it soon, but we need to tailor the request again to make sure Herkimer's Bibles do not count and the Trump Bibles still count. I don't know how you get more clearly shady than what this guy is doing right now, Walters. Instead, though, this week, Ryan Walters did not address the reason he was doing any of this. But check this out. This is what he said um, to a reporter. Look, I believe if you're teaching American history, the Bible absolutely has to be included. We cannot allow left-wing activists to sit here and say we don't like Christianity, which is weird because I'm a left-wing activist and I don't remember directly saying we don't like Christianity. My issue is, okay, it doesn't belong in the public schools, and whether I like it or not is a separate issue. But like Kamala Harris wasn't saying that. Who are you talking about? And then he says later, what, are you going to mandate, if you become education secretary, are you going to mandate the Bible in schools nationwide? He said, you have to have it in the classrooms. We will ensure that history is taught in every class. With the Bible? What? That means kids will know American exceptionalism, which is weird because if you know anything about history, US history, global history, then you understand why Americans are so not exceptional. Like, we're all horrible people, historically speaking. And then he goes on. That means kids will know the role that faith played. We will be unapologetic about that here in Oklahoma. We want to make sure that every student knows the role that the Bible played in American history, which is easy because you can just chuck out the Bible because it didn't play a role. That's why the Constitution does not mention Jesus more than 0 times. So this is what Ryan Walters has been up to. And just to summarize this whole part of the story, because there is a part 2 coming up, Ryan Walters, who could be tapped to run the Department of Education, wants to eliminate the Department of Education because he wants to ensure that communities, not Washington bureaucrats, get to decide what's best for children, even though he really wants to become a Washington bureaucrat so that he can personally force classrooms around the country to use the Bible when teaching fake Christian history because he believes that's what's best for children. Absolutely ridiculous. I wish reporters cared about right-wing hypocrisy because there's never been a better subject. And you could also argue, if you want to get really conspiratorial about this, maybe Ryan Walters canceled his bid for proposals, his bid to provide all those books. Maybe he canceled that because he already knows he has another job awaiting him. And so why do this in Oklahoma and bring on all this negative press if you can just do it at the national level in a couple of weeks? That's the conspiracy side of me thinking. The other side of me is just saying he did all of this to get on Donald Trump's good side. But now that the election is over, he has other ways of getting on Trump's good side. So why keep this one going? This one's causing you a lot of bad press. Get rid of it. Do other stuff like he's been doing this week. Now, what about the lawsuit? Well, I asked one of the lawyers involved in the lawsuit what happens since this whole bid proposal has been canceled. And what the lawyer told me is that because Ryan Walters says he's still going to issue a brand new request for proposal to purchase the Bibles soon, nothing has changed. The lawyer said litigation plans remain unchanged. There's no reason to drop the lawsuit while the Bible mandate and the 55,000 Bible purchasing is still on the table. So that's where we're at with Ryan Walters for the Bible buying aspect. There is a part 2 to this. I will get to that in a moment. But for now, let me stop there and I will take questions on this. And then I'll get to the other reasons we're talking about this horrible, horrible dude. Oklahoma, what the hell? What are you doing to the rest of us? Thanks, Alan. I appreciate that. Love that last name. Look at that. Showerman. Frick yeah time. Assigned reading makes the book 100%, 100 times less fun, or maybe I'm just a contrarian. I know kids love reading big books. They especially love reading KJV language Bibles. And like, what are you going to do with it? If you send a Bible to each class, every student doesn't have it. What are you going to do? Reading it out loud? It doesn't make any sense. It's just a dumb idea. I hope someone does an accounting to calculate how much of all this nonsense costs taxpayers, sans the Bible that never got purchased. I mean, if you think about how much money Ryan Walters has at his disposal to manage his own staff, to put together these committees that do absolutely nothing but like pleasure Trump. Like, yeah, it's a lot of wasted money. He's also in charge of overseeing a lot of money that the legislature has allocated for school safety and asthma medication. And they are mad at him because he was just sitting on this money for a long time. So he's not even good at what he does with the money he's been given that's supposed to be used for other stuff. The idea that he could have control of the purse strings that deal with special ed and free and reduced lunches and all of that stuff it would be a disaster for a lot of Republican families too. And I hate that they have to find this out the hard way, because if it's not Ryan Walters, it's going to be some other right-wing idiot like Chris Rufo, who's just a right-wing propagandist who thinks everything is DEI because he saw a black person once. So the Department of Education is going to be like appointing Matt Gaetz Attorney General or RFK to Health and Human Services. They're going to find the most idiotic, incompetent person. And the question that we should be asking is, which of those is it? Because incompetent, like Ryan Walters, might actually be better than just pure maliciousness, like a Rufo who actually knows what he's doing. I heard the argument from some liberals, like, you know what, Matt Gaetz is probably the best option for Attorney General because he's too stupid to know what to do with power. RFK Jr., a little scarier, because he actually would be able to inflict a lot of damage upon people. Ryan Walters would make a lot of noise, but he's not smart enough necessarily to do a lot of damage, maybe. Anyway, yeah, at some point, if Oklahoma's willing to open the books, it would be very interesting to see how much money. By the way, he's also wasted money when it comes to traveling to right-wing crazy conferences. And they were on him to get an accounting of how much money he's spending on his travel budget. This is an extremely funny outcome for a bald-faced attempt to donate taxpayer dollars directly to Trump. It might be funny in like a gallows humor sort of way, like, because he's not done yet. He still wants to give money to Trump, taxpayer dollars to Donald Trump. He's just, this method didn't work out as intended, so he has to try plan C now. Check out the prayer video I don't know RW made and said Oklahoma students. We'll get to that in the next story. That's part 2. We're going to get to that video in a second. Ryan Walters, I got you. Jesus saves now. You can too at the Bible Factory outlet. I mean, what are they going to do with those Bibles after they purchase them? Like, textbooks are worth less year after year. And at some point, schools have to purchase new ones. Like these Bibles, and if they're made by Trump and they have Trump's stamp of approval on it anyway, you know it's not good quality. If you've seen videos of people reading the Trump Bible, the pages are quite literally sticky and they tear apart when you read them because of the way they're printed. So these books are not going to last very long to begin with. It's ridiculous.